What's going on, everybody? I am Sean McCabe, and I am with the one and the only James Kokolek. James, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I've never been better. We are back and better than ever. We took about a 2-week break because of Hurricane Irma. Looked like it was going to bend us over on the East Coast, but it went west, went wide left, as they say.
I never even lost power.
Yeah, not me either. But whatever. I mean, there was some damage, a little bit of cleanup, but it was all good. So, with the hurricane, we're back. We didn't leave you guys. We're here. We're here for good. We're here for you guys. Remember to check out Between the Hash Marks on iTunes, Facebook, YouTube. You can email the show at bthashmarks@gmail.com. We have a loaded show for you guys today. We are each going to be making 5 NFL picks against the spread. We have a little wager going on that we'll share with you later. We have the optimal DraftKings lineups that we're going to share for you guys. Win some money. We have some fantasy advice for a top pick that went down. I think you all know who I am talking about. But first, here is my opening rant.
Your number one source for sports.
You know who I can't stand? Kevin Durant.
He looks like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton had a kid.
Now, who can argue with that?
I hate Boston.
I'm the biggest Miami Heat hater you'll ever meet.
I just don't understand where you're getting your bogus information from.
What the hell are you even talking about?
Well, I'm sorry you're too freaking sensitive to handle the truth.
You think I'm crazy? I'm just getting warmed up.
You're now Between the Hash Marks with James Kokolak and Sean McCabe.
I am going to tell you why Andy Dalton is like your first college girlfriend. She's super attractive. Pretty face, killer body. She loves to party. She gets good grades. She had a 4.0 in high school, and there are very little signs that she is not good. Andy Dalton looked great in college. Looked good, really good coming right out of college. He looks great in the pocket, has a decent arm, weapons that are reliable, great coaching, even leading the team to the playoffs in multiple occasions. Not just once, but in multiple occasions. But just like this attractive girl, you've been dating her for a little while, and you realize that that pretty face is just a bunch of makeup pancaked all over it. She stops going to the gym as much as she used to. So she starts losing her killer body. Her grades start slipping because, the classes are harder. They're not holding your hand anymore like they were in high school. And the only thing she continues to do is she continues to keep partying and partying harder. This is Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton loses Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu. That's his makeup. That's the makeup right there. 2 real receivers who are playing really well on other teams. Then Tyler Eifert goes down with an injury last year. You lose 2 key offensive linemen going into this season. That's your killer body right there. The body is gone. She stopped going to the gym. Loses offensive and defensive coordinators. One is now the coach of the Minnesota Vikings. The other is now the coach of the Cleveland Browns. Your class is getting harder. The classes are getting harder for her. She's not as smart as you thought she was. And the only thing that remains is AJ Green. And honestly, you're throwing the ball to AJ Green a little too much. That is your partying. You're partying too much. And this is just a perfect storm of all of these things coming together at the same time, which is causing the Cincinnati Bengals and Andy Dalton to fall apart. Look, I don't need to go through all the numbers. I'm just going to hit a couple key points. 0 touchdowns in 2 games. We all know that. Both of them home games. But if you go back to last season, the last 3 games of last season, Andy Dalton only had 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions if you combine all 5 games together. And in that span, the Bengals have been 1-4. 4 of those games have been home games. Another prime time abysmal performance. It's time to dump that girl and move on with your life because she is not getting any better. Not in any facet of life. And that is Andy Dalton. It's time to move on and bring in AJ McCarron, which is why you did not trade him last offseason, even though almost every team in the NFL was interested because you saw the signs. Now they are confirmed. Marvin Lewis, still a good coach, but it's not the right fit anymore. He's got to go from Cincinnati. You'll get another job, Marvin Lewis. You'll be fine, but not the right fit anymore. You and Andy Dalton were on the hot seat going into this year, and now you are done. Or at least you should be. And it has been going on for way too long. Only 10% of teams that start 0-2 make the playoffs. And you're not the exception. You're the rule. You're done. Speaking of done, let's change gears a little bit to something a little more light depending on who you are. But we're talking about done because all of these David Johnson fantasy owners appear to be done with this upcoming season. And we are going to try to help you to not be as done as the Cincinnati Bengals are. Now, James, I know this is personally devastating to you because he is on one of your teams. Tell me, what are you going to do to combat this?
Well, let me start off by saying that I totally agree with the Bengals. I think they are done. I think that they need to trade AJ Green. They need to go into full rebuild. Their window has closed. Andy Dalton is officially a backup quarterback from here on out on another team. AJ McCarron was a game manager at Alabama and will come in and continue to be a game manager. And I think that they will be successful with him at the helm. But moving forward to David Johnson, I don't think I'm as devastated as every other David Johnson fantasy owner out there.
Okay.
Let me explain why. I actually had somebody I think it's fair to say that he's a complete idiot because he wanted to trade David Johnson right after the draft. But needless to say, he wanted to trade David Johnson. I had the first overall pick. I took Le'Veon Bell. So I may have lost David Johnson, but I still have Le'Veon Bell. So how many David Johnson owners can say that? Probably none.
Probably none.
So if I can still make the playoffs, he's only out 12 weeks. I could have David Johnson back for fantasy football playoffs just when I need him.
No, I agree with that. Yep.
So
okay.
I still have Le'Veon Bell, but yeah, I actually traded for David Johnson. I gave up Aaron Rodgers and Todd Gurley for David Johnson, Dak Prescott. It's a pretty fair trade. Originally, the trade was David Johnson for Todd Gurley and DeAndre Hopkins, which I much rather would have preferred because I didn't want to give up Aaron Rodgers. But what am I going to do to suffice the loss of David Johnson? Well, I can say that right now it's pretty hard. It depends on if you're in an 18 league, a 10-team league, or a 12-team league.
Let's go with 12-team leagues. I think most people play in 12-team leagues.
Okay. That's going to be a little bit more difficult. I'm personally in a 10-team league, and I picked up Shane Vereen.
Okay.
I don't know if Shane Vereen's going to be available in your league, but he led the Giants in receptions. He led the Giants in targets in week 1. I know Odell may be back, but he definitely will not be at 100%. Eli and Ben McAdoo trust Shane Vereen. So if you're in a PPR league, Shane Vereen is definitely a valuable option. If he should be on your waiver wire. He's definitely not a drafted player, most likely. Another couple would be Allen from the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay, Buck Allen.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
He tends to be a very good receiving back, and Joe Flacco leads the NFL in throwing to his running backs since the beginning of last year. I believe it is 145 passes to his backs. I just saw this stat the other day.
Okay.
And that is why I personally picked up Buck Allen, who is sitting on my bench right now in Shane Vereen's spot, who Shane Vereen is now. Also, Jamal Charles. It's a sneaky one. You could pick him up. He's more of a flex play right now in more of a deeper league, a 12-team league, because he's splitting time with C.J. Anderson, and he did just have that pretty costly fumble that almost cost Denver the game last week in week 1. But Jamal Charles could be a big pickup because if he could go back to being the old guy, Jamal Charles, he was not drafted in most leagues due to the injury and not being a starter anymore. He is on most people's waiver wires. Go out and add him to your roster. Go out and add him to your bench. What is the worst thing that can happen by adding Jamal Charles and Shane Vereen? Now you have two options. Both, you're not going to replace David Johnson. Those would be the two options that I see on my waiver wire that really stood out to me.
Who do you think is winning that job in Arizona? Is it Kerwin Williams all the way, or
Stay away from Arizona running backs. I actually personally picked up Kerwin Williams and then dropped him for Shane Vereen.
okay?
Because
Okay,
they
wow.
just added Chris Johnson again. They still have Andre Ellington. Kerwin Williams is going to be more of a turn into a goal line back, a third down back, more of a power back. And I think that they'll use Chris Johnson more of a first and second back, and Andre Ellington as a passing back. I would stay away from the three-headed monster because they may be good together, but fantasy-wise, that's a nightmare because you never know who's going to have the big game on any weekly basis because David Johnson's not there.
Okay.
So I would stay away.
What are you doing this week for David Johnson being out? Who are you starting?
I am starting Shane Vereen. The one negative side about that is if somebody else has a big game or you find a better matchup, Shane Vereen plays on Monday night.
Yeah.
So once he's in your lineup come Sunday, there is no taking him out because nobody else will be left.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's something that you're going to have to live with. But I see Shane Vereen getting the bigger workload because the Giants are 0-1, and this is a must-win game for a team that was supposed to be dominant this year and looked like absolute crap in Week 1, and that might be an understatement.
Now, I agree with you with Shane Vereen, and I'm kind of going with the same premise here. Alvin Kamara is only owned in 17.8% of ESPN leagues, and if you watched Monday night, he's kind of reminding me of what Darren Sproles was in New Orleans. I feel like he's going to be that guy that's going to get the 3rd and 6th play to him, and I think he can make the move. I don't think they're going to stick with Adrian Peterson all the way through the season. I think he only had 9 carries. I could see him getting more, maybe.
I believe it was 9 snaps, 6 carries.
Yeah, even worse. And New Orleans is known for this. Back when they had Mark Ingram and Chris Ivory, it was never one guy getting 25 carries. It was one guy getting 12 and the other guy got 16. And one of them and then Darren Sproles out of the backfield.
That's what scares me, though.
Yeah.
That's what scares me.
But when you're
at
banking,
the moment, there's 3 of them.
Exactly. But if you're in a PPR league, if you're in a non-PPR league, stay away from Kamara. But if you're in a PPR league, I think Kamara is a very, very sneaky player. Also, like you were saying, I love Jamal Charles. I think he's going to win the Denver job. Maybe not this week, maybe not the next week, but I think by week 6 or 7, the job will be his. So if you get him now and you can afford to stash him, you should. He's only owned in 21% of ESPN leagues, and he was dropped in about 20% of all ESPN leagues. He dropped over the past week. He's been dropped in 20% of leagues. So he was owned about 40% last week until that fumble probably.
People are stupid. Don't they realize that fantasy football is not a sprint, it's a marathon? You have
Obviously
to win
not.
you have to win in the playoffs. Players are not going to play great week in and week out.
Oh, I agree.
Antonio Brown's not going to put up 30 points every week. There are going to be weeks that he has 2 catches for 30 yards because he's shut down. It might be 1 week out of the year and that's it. But it's going to happen. Jamal Charles should be on your bench. He is too good of a player to be in the waiver wire. Too good of a player.
Also, some notable mentions. I like Tariq Cohen.
I love Tariq Cohen.
Tariq Cohen, PPR, non-PPR,
Huge.
you got to pick him up because Jordan Howard, especially if
questionable.
you're a Jordan Howard owner, you need to pick him up yesterday because he is now owned in 65% of ESPN leagues, and he's been picked up in 63% of leagues over the past week. So you need to pick him up if you don't have him already. And another sneaky play for PPR leagues is Marlon Mack, the backup out of Indianapolis. Now, I don't think he will be anything special until Andrew Luck comes back. Nobody on that offense is going to be good until Andrew Luck comes back. But I think Frank Gore is slowly dissipating away, and somebody's got to get those carries, and that guy is going to be Marlon Mack. Turbin, he's gone. He's out. You can get rid of him.
Speaking of Andrew Luck, though, I have huge thoughts that could benefit both the Colts and Andrew Luck. But we're going to save that for next week, so you're going to have to tune in next week to hear the big news and big thoughts that I have that could make sense for both sides.
Okay. Now, what about non-PPR? Who can you pick up for non-PPR to replace David Johnson? Me personally, I think this is a very sneaky play. It's kind of boom or bust, but if you're in a non-PPR league, you're kind of relying on that anyway. Mike Tolbert. He's only owned in 2.8% of leagues, but he's going to get about 7 to 10 carries because Buffalo runs the ball like crazy, and they can't give the ball to LaShawn McCoy 40 times. They can only give it to him 25 to 30 times. The other 10 carries are going to go to somebody, and that somebody right now is Mike Tolbert, and he scored last week. He is going to get the goal line carries. I like, not this upcoming week, but in the future, Donta Foreman. He played pretty well for the Texans on Thursday night. He didn't do much week 1. He had a killer preseason, an absolute killer preseason. And I think that they are slowly, gradually, Lamar Miller's not doing anything for them at all. He really hasn't done anything for them since he's been a Houston Texan. What do you think? Who would you take?
Now, non-PPR, this is kind of a crazy pick, but I think you'd have to stash him for a little while. But Derrick Henry.
That was the next name on my list.
Because I don't think DeMarco Murray I think he's hit that limit. He's not the 5 years ago rushing for what it was just under 2,000 yards, yeah. I believe.
And he has this trend where he balls out and then he sucks. And then he balls out and then last year he balled out. This year,
he's coming close to 30. It's just, I think that he's over the hill. I think this is going to become Derrick Henry's team by year's end. I think he's going to be a huge pickup in leagues. So yeah, Derrick Henry would be my one pick. I think he's like a bulldozer when running the ball. He's huge, he is fast, he is physical, and there's a reason why the Texans drafted him, I believe, in the second round.
Yeah, they did. Second round.
And he has been dropped in just about 27% of leagues over the past week, and he's only owned in 60.2% of leagues worldwide. So you need to add Derrick Henry to your roster, because remember, fantasy football is a marathon, not a sprint. You need players in week 16 and week 15 and week 14, just like you need them in week 1, 2, and 3. But speaking of fantasy rosters, we have our ultimate DraftKings Optimum Fantasy Lineups coming up next. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
And we're back here on BTH, and we're going to be going into a segment we're going to be doing every week. It's going to be the Optimum Fantasy Lineup. So starting this week, Sean, what's your perfect fantasy lineup?
All right, I am big. If you are in a tournament, I am big on stacking players, stacking the quarterback with a wide receiver or stacking it with a tight end. And I also love going with later games in the day. So I'm doing the Matt Ryan, Julio Jones combination. It's very expensive. Matt Ryan, $7,500. Julio Jones, $9,200. Very expensive, but I think it's going to pay off significantly. They had dominated Green Bay in two games last year. Dominated them offensively. So I expect that big time again. And Green Bay's best cornerback that they had last season is not even on the team anymore. So I think they're going to shred apart that secondary. My running backs, I have Christian McCaffrey and Ty Montgomery. Christian McCaffrey, I think he's a PPR machine. I think every week he's just going to be more and used more and more. He's only $5,600. Ty Montgomery for $5,800. The Falcons gave up a big play last week to Tariq Cohen. Big play. I expect Ty Montgomery to have a similar play. They have a really good defense, but really young defense. Young defenses make a lot of mistakes like that. Big play mistakes. That's why I'm going with Ty Montgomery. My other wide receivers, I am going with Cooper Kupp, $4,100. Great value pick here. He is the guy for the Rams. He's a young guy. Jared Goff's a young guy. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot because their running game is abysmal. I know Todd Gurley is good. Their offensive line is garbage. They only averaged 2.1 yards per carry last week against the awful Colts defensive front. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. Expect Cooper Kupp to have a good game. Marquise Lee, Allen Robinson's going down. Marquise Lee is going to be the guy that gets all the receptions in Jacksonville. Allen Hurns is the deep threat. Marquise Lee is the guy that's going to get all the catches. And I am going to go double tight ends here. Tight end in my tight end spot, obviously, and tight end in my flex. I like Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham had a bad week last week, but he got the targets. He had 3 catches, 8 yards, but he got the targets. I expect him to have those targets again. Expect red zone targets. Expect a touchdown. Travis Kelce is my other guy. Travis Kelce, only 5,100. And I thought he did really well against the Patriots. And he got a couple handoffs, too. There's still a couple sneaky points. But they're going against a worse secondary. The Eagles' secondary is atrocious, especially because Darby's out now. Expect Travis Kelce to have a big game. And the Seahawks defense, it's a little expensive, $4K for a defense. But the Seahawks are going to absolutely obliterate the 49ers at home. So to cap it off, I got Matt Ryan, Christian McCaffrey, Ty Montgomery, Julio Jones, Cooper Kupp, Marquise Lee, Jimmy Graham, Travis Kelce, and the Seahawks defense. James, what do you got?
All right, so my lineup is a little similar, a little bit different. I got Phillip Rivers at quarterback. He's playing Miami. We don't really know too much about Miami's defense yet, but Phillip Rivers, he's going to have his. He did put up 3 touchdowns against Denver. He's never a bad pick at 5,800. That is a value pick at quarterback. Leonard Fournette. The Jags are going to ride him all year. He's going to be a steady pick every week at 6,500. I think he's another value pick because I think he should be in the 7,000 range. Christian McCaffrey. You said it best. He is going to be a PPR machine. At 5,600, he is a steal week in and week out if he stays at that price. Mike Evans. He is my big-time wide receiver this week. I think he is roaring to go after not playing last week. Tyreek Hill, he always seems to have that one big play every week that turns into a touchdown somehow, some way. And you just got to keep rolling with it until it stops. Another similar pick that we have is Cooper Kupp. I like the young talent that the Rams have on offense. I think him and Goff are going to have a connection all year. I think it's going to be a connection to come for years. And I think that at 4,100, you can't beat that value. He's going to see a lot of balls his way. So he's going to put up his numbers as long as he can create the catches. I have Tariq Cohen as my flex. Now, I put him in there. Yes, Jordan Howard's still the number 1 running back, but Jordan Howard is also questionable this week. Tariq Cohen, the Bears have been raving about him all preseason, all throughout training camp, and just like the Bears OC said after the game, the secret's now out. Everybody knows who Tariq Cohen is, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with because you can line him up at running back, inside, outside, anywhere on the field, and he's going to make plays for you. I have the Chargers defense. I think that Chargers already having a game under their belt is going to have an advantage over Miami this week. I think Miami's going to come out a little rusty, and I think the Chargers defense is going to shut them down. And last but not least, my tight end. And I saved my tight end for last because usually I like to go smaller on my tight end because I like to stack my lineup. Somewhat like you said, I like my quarterback and wide receiver to be the same. I did have Jameis Winston in earlier. I changed him out due to some financial issues. But I like to stack my players. And I like to go small on tight ends. Except for this week. You got to go Gronkowski. You have to. They're going up against a all-world terrible defense that the Saints have had for years now. It's not a secret how bad the Saints defense is. And not only that, but they're playing in the Superdome. There's going to be no weather issues. It's not going to be cold. It's not going to be hot. It's going to be perfect temperature, no wind. This is perfect for Tom Brady to go into New Orleans after getting his ass handed to him on Thursday Night Football against the Chiefs And starting the season 0-1, which, quick little stat, Patriots, last time they started the season 0-1, last 3 times, they've ended the season with winning a Super Bowl. So this could be terrible for NFL fans, not Patriot fans. But they did lose week 1, and I think Tom Brady's going to come out, and I think he is going to show the world that he hasn't fallen off. And he's going to put up historical numbers this week against that historical bad defense in the Saints. And that being said, I would like to transition into our NFL picks this week with the spreads. And my first pick this week is New England over the Saints.
Okay.
7-point spread. Or 6.5. I'm sorry. I'm going to take New England winning that game by a touchdown in New Orleans. Pick number 2. I'm taking Green Bay as the underdog at Atlanta. Atlanta has a 3-point favorite. I'm picking Green Bay to not only cover the spread, but to win that game. LA Rams. I'm taking the LA Rams 2.5 over Washington. And I say that because Washington's defense is atrocious, and I don't think it's going to be the best game on TV. I still think the Rams have a lot of growing, but I do think that they're going to win that game by a field goal. 2.5 is the spread. I have the Rams covering that. Pittsburgh versus Minnesota in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is favored by 6. I have them winning by at least a touchdown, covering that spread. And last but not least, Tennessee over Jacksonville, 1.5 in Jacksonville. I'm taking Tennessee to win that game by 2 points or more, for sure.
Okay.
And those are going to be my 5 picks this week.
Okay. All right, with my picks here, I got Dallas is a 1-point favorite in Denver. I love this pick. Dak is amazing. I admit I was completely wrong about him last season. They have so many weapons, and I just don't trust Denver at all, especially coming off of a huge emotional division rival game Monday night. Monday night, when people see a team do well Monday night, they tend to overreact and put this team on some pedestal because they watched the game. The public watched the game. That I think Denver is completely fake. I think the defense is good, but I don't trust Simeon at all. Give me Dallas covering -1. I have the Miami Dolphins covering +3. Now, I don't love +3. I saw earlier in the week at +4.5. If you're able to get that, put that in right this very second. But +3, I still like them. They had an extra week of training camp. And the Chargers have the worst home field advantage in the entire league. Jay Cutler is going to be throwing bombs to Devontae Parker. They have real offensive weapons, and I think their defense looks really good. The secondary looks really good, and that front 4 looks amazing. Now, I see you have Green Bay covering, or they're a 3-point dog. I see you have them winning outright. I completely disagree with you. I actually got Atlanta at -2.5, and let me tell you why. Atlanta is a big-time offense. They destroyed Green Bay twice last year on the offensive side of the ball. I know their offensive coordinator is not there anymore. It doesn't matter. They are still going to be running the same kind of offense, big-time offense. They're opening up a new stadium. They haven't really celebrated last season yet, and this is the first chance they have to celebrate last season. That place is going to be absolutely electric, and I have a crazy stat for you. Since 2012, the Green Bay Packers are under 500, straight up. This is not against the spread. Straight up, they're under 500 away. That's insane. When I first heard this stat, that's absolutely insane.
That's actually mind-blowing because the Packers have been a solid team that went, if I'm not mistaken, 14-2, 15-1, 6-7 years
Under
ago?
500 since 2012. Give me the Falcons at -2.5. We have another pick that we disagree on. You picked the Rams -2.5. I got the Redskins 2.5, and I freaking love this pick. Washington, yeah, their defense isn't that great, but they have a good front 4. And the Rams, they can't run the ball against the abysmal Colts defense. They're not going to be able to run the ball against the Redskins. So I expect them to throw the ball a lot, and I expect them to have some success throwing the ball. But if they keep throwing the ball, that's forcing a young quarterback to throw a lot more than he would like to, making him make dumb mistakes. That pressure that Ryan Kerrigan's going to have is going to be insane for him. I don't think Goff is going to be able to handle it for 4 quarters. I know Goff looked good, but it was against the Colts. It was against the Colts. Give me the Redskins plus 2.5. Now, my least favorite pick this week, but I'm going with it, and this is one we actually agree on, is Pittsburgh -7. This is my most hesitant pick. If you are to get better odds than this, I saw it at 6.5. I saw it at 6. If you're able to get that like you did, then do it. I think they will win by a touchdown. I'm not sure about more than a touchdown, but even if it's still at -7, put down Pittsburgh as winning that bet. Teams coming off Monday night, like I said, they're usually overrated by the public. Minnesota had a very good game on Monday night, and Big Ben is a way better quarterback at home than on the road. At home, he has over a 100 passer rating. On the road, only an 85, less than an 85 passer rating. Give me the Steelers -7. So those are my picks.
A little something to add to that game. Sam Bradford questionable for this week. He did have to have an MRI on his knee, and the Vikings are a little bit worried about it.
I think he'll play.
I think he'll play too, but he's definitely not at 100%. He may not get. He's not going to have the game he just had.
Pittsburgh has a real defense.
Yes, they do, and they have a tough defense, and they're going to hit.
They just added Joe Hayden, which is ridiculous, and J.J. Watt's little brother looks to be just as good as J.J. Watt. So that's why I'm still sticking with the Steelers, and they're an amazing home team under Big Ben and Mike Tomlin.
I'm riding them all the way to the Super Bowl, just like my predictions.
Oh man. I'm going to ignore that for right now, but I have a little interesting proposition for you here, James.
Okay.
Starting right now. Now, last week I went 4-1 in my picks. I can show you the picks that I had, and I went 4-1 against the spread. That's 80%. That's way better than what professionals do. If you're over 52%, you're a professional with doing this with real money. I am challenging you from week 2 to week 17. Who is going to have the better record against the spread? We can pick whatever game we want, just like we did this week. And the loser has to wear the opposing team jersey that we hate. So for me, that would be the Jets. And for you, that would be the Patriots.
I hope you enjoy wearing a San Antonio Holmes jersey.
Oh, man, that's disgusting. I hope you enjoy wearing a LeGarrette Blount jersey.
I have a Tom Brady jersey in the closet. That's not mine. It's not in my closet either. But there's a Tom Brady jersey in my house, and I've considered burning it several times, but he's the GOAT.
You know what?
I can't hate on that.
You know what? You might actually have to wear that one. It's a Patriots Tom Brady jersey?
It is absolutely a blue Tom Brady Patriots jersey.
I might make you wear that one.
And it's my mom's jersey. It's a male's jersey, but it's my mom's jersey. She's a huge Patriots fan, her and my brother. Me and my dad are Jets fans, so it's pretty crazy. Every Sunday when the Jets and Patriots do play, or twice, 2 Sundays out of the football season, it gets pretty hectic in this household. And there is definitely a lot of shit talking that goes down in the Koklak household when the Jets and Patriots play. But I'm in for it.
All right, let's shake on it.
I'm ready for it.
You have to wear it for a whole entire day.
Whole entire day. I can tell you that if I lose this bet, I'll be sitting in a Patriots jersey and sweatpants in my room all day because I am definitely not going out in public. But I will take a picture. I will have a video camera of something to prove that I've worn it all day. But wearing a Patriots jersey in public, I'm going to make sure that all of my picks hopefully come right.
All right.
That'll do it for this episode. And coming up next week, we got some more great stuff. And I did tease you earlier. We got some maybe possible news. That could something happen. Maybe something will happen. Maybe it won't. But I think it should. We'll talk about it next week. It includes Andrew Luck. See you later.